Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of the 40K Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I'm joined, as always, by the chibiest guy I know, Dimple McCutie Pie.
Aw, Dion.
Gross. Oh, wow. That's starting off the show with a fucking bang right there. Huh?
I'm trying to figure out how to work in some ubu talk here right now, but my lunch is coming up as I think about it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, please don't. Yeah, well, speaking of lunch, that's a terrible segue, but we're going to go with it.
Sure.
I just want to let listeners know that we had a really good bit going on before either one of us hit record, and now it'll be lost forever.
I think it's extremely on brand to have our one good joke for May 6th, 2020 not be recorded at all. Because we can't reproduce it. It would just feel wrong. So
I don't even want to explain it.
No.
But I want to let everybody know that it did happen.
Yeah.
And you all missed it.
Much like my Canadian girlfriend, who you wouldn't know because she goes to another school, she is real. You just won't see her.
Just trust us when we say it was really funny. All right.
Top 10 bangers.
All right. Let's get into the aspects here. Talk about what's on our hobby radar. And I will start with hobby progress here. And I finished 3 eliminators, Campbell.
Yeah, you did.
And I've posted them to social media, and they look tight. I love these models. I'm very happy with how they turned out. And, just the Phobos stuff in general has been really good, I think. And the eliminators, to me, just top tier. And also for Raven Guard, it's just like it's so thematic.
Yeah, it's thematic.
On brand.
It's effective.
There we go.
Yeah, and it's really good with their rules. And just as for how good your eliminators look, they had me looking to buy a box of eliminators, except my closest comic book store was out of them, so I couldn't pick them up at the moment. But yours are so good, I wanted to buy some, which I think is probably one of the nicest things I can say about a paint job.
Well, the cool thing about those is that they're so different than the Shadow Spear models.
Yeah,
and so much better.
Mm-hmm. The Shadow Spear ones are nice, but you do have 2 of the same pose in there, pretty much, with just a head swap.
Yep.
Yeah, the poses on the multi-part box that are really cool.
Yep, and like I said, I think last episode, no giant gaps in the cloaks themselves.
Yeah, actually, the poses are not cool; they are tactical.
Thank you.
Sorry, I got it wrong.
Thank you very much. And then I'm almost done with the Primaris Lieutenant, the special issue Primaris Lieutenant, Lieutenant Amulius, I believe he's called.
Yeah, the Adepticon one.
Yeah, where he's standing there with his helmet and sword, and my cat is now trying to destroy my trash can. It's cool. Things are happening. Clue the listeners into more. We're going to part the kimono a little more here. And this is exactly perfect that the cat has decided that now during recording is exactly when she wants to play the most. And she's been sleeping all day. So perfect.
I realized I closed the door and Numi is outside of this room, and this room has her litter box in it and also me in it. So there's a very good chance she'll come clawing at the door, and I'll have to get up to let her in at some point in the next hour and change.
Perfect. Just let the listeners know when that happens. It's very important.
I will. I have to put my headset down, and also they'll probably hear her screaming. She's very loud.
Anyways, so Lieutenant Amulius, I have gotten through the shading phase on him, and I'm getting into.
Did you shade your blacks?
I did not shade my blacks.
Amateur.
Yeah, I know. I'm just really bad at this whole painting black thing. So there's a Chaos Marine helmet on his base.
Yes.
Indicating that perhaps he has helped kill this Chaos Marine, or at least was around when this Chaos Marine got killed, was a witness to this act. And I was trying to think, Campbell, what Chaos Legion am I going to paint this helmet after? Because, okay. I mean, who would the Raven Guard want to, kick ass the most?
Well, I've got a few suggestions.
Oh, suggest away. I've already done it, but I want to hear your suggestions.
I figure you'd probably want to have one of the real grudge-bearing legions from the Horus Heresy.
Okay.
So not just anybody, but someone who's at the Drop Site Massacre. So Death Guard or Emperor's Children or maybe Word Bearers.
Yeah, well, Word Bearers are just come on, they're the worst.
Yeah, they're the very obvious punching bag here. So I would assume you'd probably want to do one of those three.
So I didn't do one of those three, but I did think about that.
Okay.
The whole drop site massacre thing. I went with the Alpha Legion.
Neat.
Because the Alpha Legion are a bunch of mark-ass posers. Okay?
Go on.
They think that they're stealthy. They think that they got this infiltration game down. But what they are is a bunch of little shitty babies with shitty diapers. And they stink. And they're just gross to look at and behold. And most of all, smell. Just it's a shitty baby legion.
You're talking about the Death Guard right now. You know that, right?
I'm talking about the Alpha Legion. A lot of people don't know this about the Alpha Legion, but they're just shitty babies.
Which book is that in? The shitty baby factor.
It's in Legion, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Which is a Dan Abnett book. Where it's really weird how he chose to write this novel with all of the dialogue from the Alpha Legion characters being the whole time, which to me was a very interesting choice. And the audiobook, the voice acting is, of course, extremely good.
So here's the problem. I really like
that's a
this
fucking bit, listeners. That's a fucking bit.
I like this bit. The problem is I like that book, and I think it's misrepresenting it. Because if you were like, the actual Alpha Legion thing is like, if an Alpha Legionnaire walks on a banana peel, slips, and totally fucking bites it as he lands on his ass, he'll just go, haha, just as planned. Like, that's the Alpha Legion's shtick. Not being a shitty baby. It's just it's pretending you know a lot more than you do.
Well, I went with Alpha Legion there, and I'm sure there's, 6 or 7 people out there who are going to be like, well, hey now, that's my favorite chaos boys.
And they're all going to be coming from alfarius@gmail.com.
Yeah.
It's amazing how there's more than one account called alfarius@gmail.com.
So just a bunch of shitty babies. All right, that's it for me for hobby progress. Just some finish up those eliminators and working on Lieutenant Amulius here.
Nice.
Though I don't know if I'm gonna stick with the Amulius name, because what I do with guys who have the little name scrolls on their models, I pick a bird name for them. Like I'll find a scientific name from a bird, and I'll change that up a little bit so it fits on the scroll and go with that. And I haven't figured that out yet. So
yeah, I think that's the way to go. Really, like even in my army, he's not Amulius. In my army, he's Lieutenant Volpi Primo.
Ooh, I don't think we did the Tarantella at all last episode.
It's a real shame. We really missed out, but we'll make up for it today, I'm sure.
Will we? Anyways, so that's it for me. I think next on the list are the rest of the Baja Blasters, and just got 4 of those. And then after that, I don't know. I don't know what I'll do. I've got plenty of stuff left here in the backlog, so we'll see what happens. I'm thinking maybe an Invictor Warsuit.
Ooh, they're fun.
And speaking of large models that look and are shaped like dreadnoughts, let's pivot to you and your hobby progress, Kimball, because I know you just finished a certain large friend.
Yeah, my thick lad with 2 C's in thick and 2 D's in lad, the Redemptor Dreadnought, who's in this case, he's just named Perseus, kept it simple, kept it kind of Space Marine neutral.
That doesn't get a Tarantella.
It's okay. It won't, but something else might later. I finished the Redemptor Dreadnought.
You're teasing me.
Oh, I am teasing you the same way I would tease like a nice mozzarella as I'm trying to test how stretchy it is.
Oh shit.
So, okay. Fucking gabagool.
No. You can't do it. You can't just say Italian food names and that'll be the entire show where it's mostly Tarantella. You can't do it.
You fucking watch me as I read off an Elf Garden menu. All right, so I painted the Redemptor Dreadnought. I built him like a year and change ago. I even started painting him, and I started base blocking in the spots where I was going to put in like black and metallic, and I just got bored and I put him back in a box. Like I picked him back up, and there was like black paint like halfway up his gun, and I gave up at that point, which is like fucking
you rage
astounding.
quit painting a mini.
Just about. Although I'm kind of like I'm kind of bummed I waited so long because he was a lot of fun to paint. Even though I knocked him out just in like just a week, and he was kind of a project. But like we had a hangout on Saturday, like you, me, Eric Beers, Dylan, like a whole bunch of our like general hobby crew folks, and I spent the entire time 3.5 hours just edging blue. And I may be an edging enthusiast, but can't have blue balls at the end of it.
Wow. Ugh.
Yeah,
we're just gonna flush that joke.
Sorry,
right down the toilet.
What's the opposite of scoreboard?
It's still scoreboard, but it's you're losing.
The thing is, I'm losing against myself. It's incredible.
Hey, you check out how bad we're doing. That's right. Yeah. So I'm a little surprised you had given up on this model because I honestly thought the Redemptor was a ton of fun to paint when I did mine.
I think I might have started doing it too soon after starting or painting the repulsor or something like that. Like I must have worked on something big before. And
vehicle fatigue is a real thing.
Yeah, it's only the third vehicle I've painted for this army in like a year and a half. Like I have not painted many vehicles. For what's worth, I haven't bought that much new, so I don't have any repulsor executioners or fucking hover El Caminos. But
I would suggest getting the Rep X. It's fun to blast something and then then it immediately melts in the next turn because it doesn't have an invulnerable save.
I mean, having actually effective shooting is kind of or effective long range shooting is
the El Camino, nice. The Impulsor. That is, everybody reports that it's a very, very good unit on the tabletop, especially because you can buy it a 4-up invulnerable save and it just drives around booping things. You're familiar with booping.
I'm very familiar with booping to the point where I know swooping hawks are actually called booping hawks because they're not really effective at doing anything else.
Right. So the Impulsor, I want one, but that's down the line. I gotta work through this Marine backlog before I get into any new stuff.
Well, you're gonna hear I'm almost at the end of my Marine backlog.
Oh, Hachi Machi, so good for you.
Before I finish the Redemptor Dreadnought, we're Tarantinoing this. We're going not even reverse chronological, like back to front to middle. I finished the 4 intercessors with Sergeant Joven I was working on last time.
I just want to say real quick, that joke was more confusing than a Tarantino movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Scoreboard.
So I finished those 4 intercessors. They're good. I like how they came out, but again, they're just kind of intercessors number 30 through 34.
Are you going to get the 5th and paint them up?
Yeah. Dylan's going to be mailing me the 5th as well as a squad of incursors because he and I are splitting the Prophecy of the Wolf box because our pal Jack over at the Bolter Hole is able to get us a box and he's taking the Orc half and I'm taking most of the Marine half.
So here's the thing. You don't have to make them as incursors.
Yeah, but I already have a squad of 10 infiltrators.
Okay, well.
Got to catch them all, Dan.
Okay. No, I totally, I understand that.
Yeah.
You're saying God will catch them all more than once because that's the way it goes in the song.
Yes. I do not remember all the words to Pokey Rap, but you'll never hear them come from my mouth. Anyway, the squad of 10 incursors, I'm looking forward to getting those guys out there because just knifey boys and the bolters are actually fairly effective with the tactical doctrine and all that stuff.
Yeah, they do have knives.
They do have...
Oh, and they have sweet visors.
Yeah, they have sweet visors, and again, they do have 2 knives. Like, you are thinking of a guy with 2 knives.
You certainly are.
I painted the Necromunda Ammo Jack.
Oh, yeah.
Just the dude with the ammo cannon under his arm and the big bolt gun. That model fucking rules. Like, It is low-key one of my favorite Necromunda models they've ever made. Like, It's so straightforward. It just kind of is what it is. I went for this kind of industrial muted paint job, so he'd look kind of like the protagonist of an early 2000s era first-person shooter. Because that's kind of the energy he's got with like a Lethaldian amount of pouches upon his person.
Oh.
Big gun, cigar, the whole deal. I love that model so fucking much.
So I had an idea of how I wanted to paint mine. I wanted to paint mine like one of those like military cosplayers that goes and stands around on the Lincoln Memorial every now and then.
Yeah, the kind of people who buy like tactical diaper bags if they ever are, if someone is misfortunate enough to be their spawn. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the vibe I get off that guy.
I mean, we got different sort of vibes. Like for me, his name would probably be like, to really keep with that 2000 shooter character, his name would be like Granite Stone or something like that. Or
Ace Knife Blade.
Brick Headbutt.
Oh, Brick Headbutt. Oh, wow. That's a potential pull quote. That's a title right there, bud.
That's going to be his name now.
We'll see how the rest of the episode shakes out. But, ooh, man, we're like, what, 15 minutes in and we already got a title? Good.
It's a good one. Other than that, because I'm an endless hobby machine, I built and primed the 2 fucking Death Cult Assassins. I bought them a while ago. They're Finecast, so...
Oh, I was about to say, like, the old metal, or I guess Finecast minis?
Tactical stiletto bondage katana ladies. Yeah,
I love them.
I figured there'd be a great chance to use some contrast paints and just knock them out real quick.
I mean, or you could take your time on them and make them look, like, beautiful.
Well, contrast first, then do edge highlights and all that stuff.
Yeah, I could, but fuck that.
No, if you mix the two, like contrast and edge highlights, you can get really good results really easily.
Okay.
And I think there are models that really suit that sort of look better than, say, a Space Marine.
I have yet to use a contrast paint. I'm not against contrast paints. I don't really care. But it's just I haven't used one yet, and I hear great things.
They're not the perfect tool for every job, but just like that, they are a tool.
You know what, Campbell? You're the perfect tool.
Aw. That's the most backhanded compliment you've ever given me.
All right, what else you got?
Last but certainly not least, I'm working on the Primaris Captain with Power Fist and Plasma Pistol.
Yeah.
And I got a name for this boy.
Oh, I'm ready. My finger's on the button.
Primaris Captain Maximo Volante.
He sounds like an opera singer.
Oh, dude, he's gonna be a basso profundo on the tabletop right when he gets aced turn 1 by a sniper rifle.
He's got 6 wounds.
Yeah, by 6 sniper rifles.
Yeah, I guess you'd want to gank him, though he is not in Gravis armor, so you can pop him in a transport.
Ooh, yeah, you're right.
But you don't want to, because then you lose out on that sweet aura.
Yep, but he's cheaper than a Gravis Captain and a whole inch speedier, so he'll be better at keeping up with my tactical battle pile.
Yeah, I like the Power Fist Captain as a cheap yet punchy, if you will, option. Where the Gravis Captain, if you're like, oh man, if only I had 10 more points, but I can get 10 more points. Yeah,
absolutely.
All right, here comes the quickest segment of the Auspex. Have you played any games?
Yes.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, I'll be quick with it. So it's not exactly playing on the tabletop.
You don't have to be quick.
Oh,
I was just saying it was going to be quick because neither of us have played any games, but you've played a game.
I have. I've played Tabletop Simulator with my dad. So... First off, he has a webcam now, and I got like a good half hour of classic boomer webcam angle before we started playing.
Nice.
So that was pretty good. Got a great view up his nose. But we played Battle Masters, which I don't know if you know anything about this game. I think I brought it up in our very first episode as one of my sort of starting points for gaming.
Okay.
It is a Milton Bradley Games Workshop collaboration that came out around the same time as HeroQuest. It's part of that same set of things.
That's pretty cool.
It was like Babby's first war game. You had this 5x5 vinyl mat with hexes on it and a painted on battlefield, and these little stands of troops on little square trays. And they'd be 5 basically Empire men at arms, or 3 Chaos Warriors, or 5 goblins, or whatever. And you have this deck of cards with a picture of each unit on it. And, some units will come up more often in the deck than others, and so on. That's kind of how it's balanced. And we played 2 games of it.
That sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's not the most deep tactical experience. It's a bit random, but it's a very good introductory war game. And because, it's so easy playing and it's not too ambiguous since it's hex-based, even on a computer sort of thing, it was the sort of thing where you could just kind of chill out and shoot the shit and move some models around, roll some dice, and, laugh when my one unit of halberdiers holds off his entire army for 3 turns. And
nice.
We played twice, and I tabled him both times very quickly.
It's completely dumpstering your dad. Your dad is over at his house doing all these things to make sure he can connect with you, his son, and you have Just no mercy whatsoever. And you're like, oh, we're playing a game, Dad? Cool. Okay, well, I've already won, so fuck you, Dad.
Yeah, no, there's this brand of...
Thanks for raising me. Not.
Thanks for raising me, loser. You taught me how to win and taught me how to succeed over you. There's these dumpsters around the Boston area that say Cams on them, because I guess there's a brand called Cam's Dumpster, and I'm really tempted to send a picture of them to basically just my father after we play together.
Wow, that would be brutal.
I would be, I'd be...
Can I add to the 40K
Sure.
Dadcast for a moment?
Sure, please do.
So my wife and I have been playing Scrabble at home during the quarantine here, and I only know one way how to play Scrabble.
Okay.
And I'm because my dad taught me only one way to play Scrabble, and that's ruthlessly beat the shit out of your opponent every single time. And my dad is if you want to have absolute zero fun, play a game of Scrabble with my dad, because the whole time he'll complain about every single word you use, and then he'll beat you by 45 points. And you're just like, what the and he's out there, like, he's not even like doing all the Scrabble tricks to like get good words, like where you like make 4 words out of 2 tiles or whatever. He's just out there putting words like fucking knave, and then he'll make 45 or 70 points, and you're just like, God damn it, how?
I'll be honest. I've had a very similar experience here, where it's like Anne and I have played Scrabble once or twice during this whole like quarantine, and she's like, I just like making words together, and I'm like, I'm gonna bury you. And the last time we played, we spelled goth twice, which is extremely on brand for our household.
Nice. The last time I played with my wife, which was I think about a week and a half ago now, because she decided that we were going to take a break from Scrabble, I scored 77 points with the word outages.
Ooh, that's pretty all right. Was the word outage already there and you just tacked an S onto a double word space or some shit?
No, I used all 7 of my tiles to make outages, and the S was actually pluralizing a different word.
Fantastic. In-depth Scrabble analysis only here at the 40K Badcast episode 72.
So yeah, that was that's what's going on, man.
All right,
thanks, Dad.
Similarly,
he's actually been like he has a lot of wildflowers in his yard, and the ones that are growing in places he doesn't want them to grow, he's been potting them and bringing them to us for us to put in our yard or pot or whatever. So it's actually very sweet, and I appreciate that. Okay, I did not play any games.
That's it for me.
Let's move on to new stuff. All right, so I want to spend some time on our man. You know who I'm talking about, and the listeners will know in a bit here who we're talking about. I want to spend some time on him last. Okay.
Okay. So, save the best for last.
We're gonna move on. There's not a whole lot of 40K stuff going on right now. There's not a whole lot of anything going on right now as far as new stuff goes.
Shocker.
But the web store is opening back up.
Yep.
Which I don't know about you, Campbell. Very good for me, because I am running out of a couple of important paints. Ulthuan Gray comes to mind. I need a new Retributor armor. Retributor, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
The gold color.
I'm down to like my last less than a finger of Nuln Oil left in this pot. So I was looking on eBay for Nuln Oil, and I found someone selling it on eBay for $40 a pot, which is proof that there is no good in the world. But fortunately, a local comic book store, Kamikaze in Davis Square, is shipping stuff right now, and they're going to hook me up with all the paints I need.
Yeah, so I'm happy that the web store is coming back. It's I'm not going to buy anything new right now, because I'm in such a backlog groove, but it's nice. It's nice. But I'm also happy that Games Workshop took the time off and was protecting their employees.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that they're talking about opening some retail stores in accordance to the local guidelines, and not just do it. And like, they're not doing games or demos in the stores, but they're still like letting people in to buy stuff. I think they should just do curbside pickup, if anything at all, but they'll do what they got to do.
I saw an ad for a tournament in June.
That's great.
Well, I guess I saw a screenshot of a Facebook post about a tournament in June somewhere in Missouri.
I think somebody I know posted that, and I commented, it is my right as an American to die playing Warhammer 40,000.
You want
Don't
to
go
talk
to a tournament right now.
Don't go to guys, gang,
Even if
ladies,
your state,
people.
if your state, country, city, state, fucking anything is open right now, just don't do that. It's a very bad idea right now.
How can you socially distance and play Warhammer 40,000?
The easy option is artillery duels, nothing but basilisks and fucking manticores, and just play that way. Which I'm sure is fun.
Still, you're supposed to stay 6 feet away from your opponent, or not your opponent, I'm sorry, from other people.
Who are all your opponents right now.
And the table is 4 feet wide. So,
yeah.
I don't know, man. It just seems like an extremely irresponsible thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And this is coming from somebody who's made a lot of irresponsible decisions in his life. So, I'm what you would call an expert. Don't go to tournaments, gang.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a tournament organizer, don't organize any fucking tournaments.
Your ITC points, your precious ITC points, are not worth people dying.
Are those still a thing?
I think so.
Okay.
I've never paid attention to them, but I see people talk about them once in a while.
I think there was like some early on in the pandemic, there was some calls for ITC to suspend its points system, and I don't know if they did or not, because I don't know. Anytime I hear or see anything ITC, my eyes sort of glaze over.
Yeah,
and my brain stops recording.
Yeah, it's very much like MLG for me, where it's like I don't give a shit. I just play games for fun.
What's MLG?
Major League Gaming.
Okay, I actually do know. I that's owned by Activision Blizzard.
Oh, you don't say.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
And the only reason I know that is because well, guess what? That's a boring story. So we're just going to move on.
Cool.
Okay, web store opening back up. The Adeptus Mechanicus getting a whole lot of new models soon.
Yeah,
and I got to tell you, bud, I got to tell you, I'm really excited about the direction that they're going with the Adeptus Mechanicus. They're leaning into the whole very weird, very Leonardo da Vinci sort of like stuff that just doesn't work. But sure, yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah,
and I'm a huge fan. They have the frog bird copter. Big fan. The bird men, this time not of Katratza, but of Mars. Also a big fan. And then the flame horses.
Horse dog flamethrower boys.
Horse dog flamethrower riders boys. Sure, whatever. Just great models all around. I am extremely happy for the AdMech players out there. But here's the thing.
Okay.
I look at an AdMech model and I am just intimidated by the amount of detail that comes on those things.
I can understand why, and it's very it's thematic, the detail they have. It's not like it doesn't look extraneous when it's painted well, but I then think about the actual physical process of painting all these models, and it's not an easy one.
We've I don't think you and I have ever really compared our painting styles before. But
yeah, we haven't.
I know that one of my hallmarks as to what makes me think, or makes me feel that I'm actually a pretty good painter, is that I try to be extremely precise in my paintings, Yeah. And I look at an AdMech model and I'm just like, fuck, there's so much to paint here. There's so many little details and stuff that I would want to do in different colors and emphasize, but I feel like just a squad of Rangers or Vanguard or whatever their troops are called, I feel like that would just do it for me. It would vanquish me.
Well, the fact that there's I actually kind of forgot there was a transfer sheet, even though I've used some of the transfers before in my Knights and shit, because when you look at your regular Scutarii models, the only place for any transfers is on their robe.
Right.
And that's kind of a weird place for a transfer to be, in my opinion.
I just wouldn't use transfers on an AdMech army, just straight up.
It's definitely, I've thought about it because the idea of a fucking wackadoo cavalry army of just the horse dog flamethrower boys and the Dune Strider models is so cool to me.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not going for this, especially right now. But again, there's a lot to that. There's a lot of different materials, a lot of different textures, and they're gorgeous. I think they are fantastic models for someone who's a pretty good painter who has a lot of patience.
Yep.
But they're also very cheap points wise generally. Yeah. So it's kind of a tough balance there because they're not that much more expensive than guardsmen, and they're a lot harder to paint than guardsmen.
I think they've done a fantastic job with the models themselves, though.
Oh, they're gorgeous.
To me, it seems like an extremely daunting project, but I really, really enjoy what they're doing. Oh, and let me say, as far as comparing our painting styles, one thing I most admire about your painting style, Campbell, is that you are very bold with your colors and your choices and your weathering. And I think that boldness and that willingness to experiment is very inspirational and aspirational as somebody who mainly draws within the lines.
Why, thank you, Dan. I'm a big fan of actually how restrained you can be with a paint scheme, because I feel very much like if I'm restraining myself with a paint scheme, I'm never going to be happy. Like, I need to have those bold, big pushes, big pops, and so on, because that very second edition sort of aesthetic. So, like, when I look at your Raven Guard, who are just like so neat, so clean, so precise, like they're parade ground ready, and they look very cohesive no matter what you do with them because of how you choose your colors. It's almost, I don't want to quite say it's like the Sin City sort of aesthetic where it's like black and white with like a pop of red, but it does kind of bring that sort of restrained palette to mind, and I really appreciate that. And the fact you went so far into left field for the Baja Blasters, like seeing that brought me so much joy because it is so far from what I'm used to painting. And
yeah,
well executed.
I actually ended up having a blast painting those things just because
of a blast, if you will.
Hey, whoa! Oh, nice. Yeah, those things are great. If you too would like to compliment our painting, contact the 40kbadcast.com and tell us how good we are, because everybody needs the good brain chemicals. All right, and I don't know about you, Campbell, but my main way of getting good brain chemicals is people complimenting my painting on the internet. So
it's one of the things I'm just like, I'm confident about this, but I still appreciate people telling me I'm good at it.
Okay, let's move on to what we really want to talk about here. Carl fucking Weathers.
Catachan Carl fucking Weathers.
OMG, my dude. This model was buried in a Warhammer community post about reopening the web store. And he's sitting there at the end, and this is just kissing my fingers, the perfect Games Workshop miniature. It is a Catachan commander with a power fist who is modeled to look like Carl Weathers in the movie Predator. And they even have some leaves on it, some Catachan leaves with some alien blood, some bright green alien blood dripping off the leaf. And it is the coolest goddamn model I've ever seen in my entire life. And if they make new Catachan, if they make plastic Catachans, I'm diving headfirst into that army, and I'll make an entire Catachan army. I don't care that I have already have an Imperial Guard army. I don't give a shit. All right. I will make a brand new Catachan army because I fucking love this model, and I love new Catachans, and the Slime Arbo, the Lady Commander, and this model right here are it's such a good way to have an incredible amount of character in your army, and I want it so bad.
Well, some damn fool accused Marbo of being the best, and Catachan Carl Weathers is so much better. And I love that Marbo model, and I ain't got time to bleed, but I do got time to paint Catachan Carl Weathers if I can get my hands on him.
Dude,
I wish he wasn't. He's gonna be hard to get.
He's gonna be so hard to get.
Like every game, like some friendly local game stores are going to be getting a few because he was supposed to be for some other promotion, and they're just kind of like repurposing him, but they're giving him to game stores like for free, which is extremely cool.
Yeah,
just as sort of like a way to smooth things over. Yeah,
for independent stores, not Games Workshop stores, but independent stores.
That's the important distinction there. And I like you, if they make a modern plastic Catachan range, which like the Command Squad kit is good. The heavy weapons kit is pretty all right. The infantry kit is garbage from a butt of a very certain era, even when at that time it was kind of garbage from a butt. But if the rest of the if they make a new range and it looks half as good as Catachan Carl Weathers here, I'm in hook, line, and sinker.
I know for a fact that I'm going to end up paying $75 on eBay for this model, and I don't care. I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. It's worth it.
Fucking do it.
Have you noticed that he has the Power Fist arm where Carl Weathers loses his arm in the actual Predator movie?
I did not notice that, but
fucking rules.
Damn it, I love this model. I also love Carl Weathers.
Mm-hmm. Underappreciated actor.
I mean, the Rocky movies are fantastic. And so are the Creed, well, not all of them. They get pretty stupid at like the last couple.
But Creed's real good.
The Creed movies are really good. And I just love Carl Weathers.
I mean, you get this model, you get some Nuln Oil, you get some green stuff, you got a stew going.
Oh, buddy. I fucked up. I should have done Catachans instead of Steel Legion. Who the fuck are Steel Legion?
That sound you just heard is Peter being vindicated in Wanacue, New Jersey.
He's always right about every. I wonder if Peter, like, if he ever gets upset about being right all the time.
It's got to get old.
Peter, write in and tell us. Well, you have our numbers. So you're just going to text us. Text us what you feel about that. We love you. Okay, this is the best model they've made so far. I don't care. I don't fucking care about any other model in Games Workshop history. This is it. This is the one I want.
Yep, I want Catachan Carl Weathers and Catachan Bionic Leg Lady to be my new mom and dad. Like, I love those models so much.
That was a rough one for you, huh?
Most words are, as we've established time and time again.
How is this possible that I'm better at this than you are?
I don't know. I really
have a stutter
don't know.
and a lisp, and I'm better at this than you are.
I'm just dumb as hell.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
The first step is admitting it.
All right. You're not dumb. You're smart, and I love you. Anyways, let's move on. We make the call. This is a good one. I've wanted to talk about this actually for a little bit, but we haven't really had a good solid reason to put it in here until Tim Gooding via email wrote in and asked, what are your thoughts on 3D printer models? Worse than proxies? Better? What about terrain? I personally love some of the terrain I've seen printed, but have a very negative feeling towards 3D printed models in an army. Does this make me a, quote, snobby gatekeeper, unquote, or is it justified?
That's the thing is there's no simple answer for this because the quality of a 3D print ranges so wildly depending on the printer, depending on the model, depending on if the person who printed it did any finishing techniques afterwards. Like, there's no blanket response here, I think, at all. Now, personally, like, I think 3D printed terrain is better suited to it right now because, like, well, 3D printers keep getting better and better, and every 3D printing evangelist is going to say, like, oh, the detail's better than a Games Workshop model. It's simply not.
It's not.
Trending towards that in a broad arc of God knows how long that's going to take, but it's simply not. Now, 3D printed terrain, where it doesn't need to be quite as fine, like, you know, a slab of a wall does not need to be as fine as like a dude's face or whatever. Like, that sort of thing I think is much more doable. And like, I used some 3D printed Pop Goes the Monkey shoulder pads for some Black Templar Terminators a few years ago, and they were fine. I had to kind of smooth them over with a fucking glob.
I remember that. Yeah, actually, you were. You say they were fine now, but I remember when you were doing it, you were not very happy about it.
I had to glob over like layer and layer and layer of like base coat paint to kind of smooth over the striations, the little lines in the shoulder pads. Like, yeah, and those are just Templar crosses on round surfaces. Like, it wasn't anything too intricate. Yeah. But I think it's still a ways away. It's gonna be a ways away. I think if, let's say you had a printer that could print Games Workshop quality models, like let's just say that theoretical is true, and you printed a bunch. I don't know. I think that'd be cool as long as you like built and painted them and stuff like that. Well, I mean, I prefer painted, but you know, whatever is your preference.
Well, here's the thing. So I think that a lot of the 3D printer stuff that comes out for Games Workshop models, like people are trying to use 3D printer models instead of Games Workshop models, might be like a means-based thing. Like somebody who can't afford Games Workshop models, but can afford to print up, you know, maybe not models, but tokens or something that represent Games Workshop models in the game. And I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that if somebody's enthusiasm outstrips their means for the hobby, you know, I don't think that's bad. I think that's like a, you know, if you can't afford to buy Carl Weathers, but you can afford to print a facsimile of Carl Weathers, then
Kyle Werthers, yeah.
Nice. I like it. I think that that's fine, you know, but the thing that like makes me most excited about the hobby, and we've talked about this before in this segment of the show, is when two really nice looking armies play each other. you know, where the entire table looks good. So we're talking good looking armies, good looking terrain, good looking mat or surface that you're playing on. Not necessarily good looking players, because I mean, come on, we're war gamers here, but you're looking at something that gives you some sort of joy, you know. You're condoing. What's her name?
Marie Kondoing.
Marie Kondoing your hobby, where whatever is happening on the table is making you feel good.
Ideally.
Right. So for me, like, what makes me feel good is you know, a friend, someone I know who has a fully painted army on some nice terrain. That makes me feel like good about stuff. And with 3D printed models, you know, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to be the ideal situation for me, but I do understand that it might be the only situation available to some players. So I'm hesitant to just like broadly say, no, 3D printers, models, get the fuck out of here. But I do want people to, you know, make an effort with the hobby and make an effort to make things look good. So somebody like me who appreciates that sort of thing can get their happy, get the good brain chemicals from playing a game of 40K.
Yeah, so long as they're roughly equivalent quality. You know, again, I don't think 3D printers are really there yet, but so long as they're roughly equivalent quality, I don't really give a shit where a model came from.
Yeah,
like if it's fair. You know, a genuine GW thing, if it's a recast, if it's your home sculpted thing out of fucking Sculpey or green stuff, or a 3D printed thing, or, you know, a metal model or a third party thing, like, I don't care if it looks cool, I'm happy, and if it makes you happy, then I'm doubly happy. Like, I've played games, like I mentioned before, the Monolith may have taped together Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I remember a game way back in high school with this guy Austin, who was in like a game group I was in back at the time, and he had an Eldar Autarch that was just a cutout of the image from the Games Workshop web store on top of a little standee. And I was a little dubious about it, but you know what? Like,
sure,
you're
whatever.
working with the means you have, which, you know, as like a high school kid, like you're working with what you got. And if what you got is a 3D printer and filament and access to decent models, go for it. Like, actually, so it's no secret I like the Fallout series a lot, and the way Modifius, which is the company that makes, or Modifius, whatever, they make the models for the tabletop war game for it.
Okay.
And instead of selling terrain, generally they sell STL files, where for $20 you can buy all the files to print a vault. Or, you know, print a tank or a car or whatever. And while I don't have a very high quality 3D printer or the means to, or the desire really to finish 3D printed models, like, I think.
Do you have a low quality 3D printer?
Well, in better times, I'd have access to one because there's a makerspace at the library.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
And, you know, I'm friends with Gundam John, who prints stuff too. But, you know, if I had access to this sort of thing, like, it might be kind of cool to print that sort of stuff out. Like, print out that vault so I could, you know, have a cool little vault set up and play some games and that sort of thing. Like, that's the way they sell their terrain, which I think, as kind of a smaller company, that's really cool and a smart way to do it. Because, you know, what do they have to lose by, you know, some hosting space? Big deal. It's not the same as having to have a warehouse full of, you know, vertibird kits that maybe nobody's buying. So I think 3D printing, I think it's a cool option. I still don't think it's there yet. It's probably not going to be there yet for quite some time, but I think it's a cool option.
So there is something I don't like about the DIY 3D printing space or whatever. It's like, you know, there's a bunch of nerds who like to get one over on something or someone. Like, that's their whole deal, where they're like, I'm saving 5% more dollars on this thing if I just, you know, spend 4 hours doing this one thing.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of mindset.
Absolutely.
So, like, there are people who are into 3D printing, and that's their mindset, where it's like, I'm going to spend $2,000 on a 3D printer and all this stuff to make it right and to make it work, so I don't have to spend $40 to buy a unit of intercessors. Yeah,
I've definitely seen that sort of thing before, where, like, I've even heard people being like, yeah, I'm printing all this terrain. Yes, I have a few boxes of unbuilt new city terrain, but I'm 3D printing it instead. And I'm just like, you have the cool stuff already there. Just use it.
Right. And it's not like, I'm not trying to be like shitty about people making things and DIY culture or anything like that. It's just that there's like a level of snobbiness involved in some of this that really turns me off.
I would say also there's a lot of that, not just snobbiness, but which I don't actually see that much of, but a lot of the sort of like justifying it to themselves externally sort of a thing where it's like, I put in all the time, money, and resources to learn how to do this right and make things right. So therefore I am now always right. Or like, I need to justify the fact that I did this whole purchase and got this whole system set up.
This reminds me of a story, a quick one.
Okay.
So for work, I used to go to South by Southwest, and they have it's not just music festival anymore. It's like a whole celebration of capitalism. It's great. Where I was, recording engineer, and would take my portable engineering setup or portable recording setup, and go around and we do these interviews with people. And one time, one of our hosts interviewed this guy, and I don't want to say his name because this is not a flattering thing about him. And he was like this big tech guy who had found out some like very interesting tech or hacking situations at some point in his life, right? And he was very young, and so he was like this like tech bro prodigy, if you will.
Okay.
And I remember looking at this guy, and this guy sucked. Just like his whole deal, his whole vibe was awful. Like being around him to me was like just he was very repellent. And he made a comment about how he cuts his own hair because he doesn't want to spend money at a barbershop. And my initial thought for that was like, yeah, motherfucker, it shows. Because he looked like shit. And it's just one of those things where it's like, it's a snobbiness, like, oh, once a month, instead of spending $12 at a barbershop or 25 or whatever, like I'm going to cut my hair myself and look like an asshole all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's that sort of mentality that kind of, with some of the 3D printing stuff, specifically about Games Workshop, that I do not like. Man, that's a roundabout way to get to the answer to that question, huh?
Yeah. So the answer is, it's cool. Don't be a jerk about it.
Which is the answer about fucking everything.
Yeah, it's pretty much every We Make to Call answer. Spoiler, I'm sorry I gave away our formula here.
But thank you, Tim, for writing in. That was a very good question, and I enjoyed discussing it with my partner and friend, Campbell McLaughlin. Okay, let's move on. Let's have some opinions. Are you ready to have an opinion or two?
Yeah, sure. I totally didn't just expound upon a bunch of them.
All right, so let's talk about 40K licensed merch for a second. Now, we've had this conversation on the show before, but I want to dive into a certain segment of licensed merch, because now that we have 40K Risk, which to me is a little bit redundant, and 40K Monopoly, which to me is just terrifying. What kind of board games, Campbell, do you want to see Games Workshop license their IP to?
So I've got a few here I'm thinking of, and the problem with all of them is I know my ideas are dumb as hell, but I kind of like them.
I mean, this is the stupid segment of the show. Smart listeners will have figured out that our normal show formula is one dumb segment and one not as dumb segment. And this is the dumb segment.
And even smarter listeners will understand that they're all dumb segments. So here's my first idea would be 40K Operation. So there's this great book that came out years and years ago called Xenology, which had all these diagrams.
I have it.
Yeah, it had all these diagrams of dead Xenos in it. Like
it's hard to find.
It's very hard to find, just from that particular period, like 3rd, 4th edition, where there was just a lot of like little imprint Black Library books that came out. But this book had like a diagram of like a dead orc in it, and like a dead Tau and so on. So I'm picturing there's like a diagram of a dead orc, and you don't want to touch the sides while you're extracting like bolter shells, broken knives, teeth from his jaw,
a lot of teeth,
which actually kind of brings it around to what's that? There's this gator teeth game with a plastic alligator, crocodile dentist.
I know what you're talking about. I have no idea what it's called.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty great, but with an orc head instead. That's kind of a segue out from a fucking 40K Operation.
Okay, yeah, that game. Teeth, the game.
Yeah, just called Teeth.
Okay, so I like this idea a lot, but I want to pitch you on something a little different.
Okay.
So instead of a facsimile of an autopsy or a surgery, but what if you're the Inquisition attempting to root out heresy
Okay.
or Xenos influence or demons or whatever. And it's like Operation, but you've got to get in there with your tweezers and pull out the little Slanesh symbol from the hive.
Okay. See, at first I thought you were going to go with Guess Who 40K.
Oh, well, thanks for stealing one of my ideas that I was going to bring up later in the segment. But we'll talk about that next. How about we just let that lie for now, and we'll talk about that next.
Let's pretend that's a natural segue.
Guess Who 40K. This one, to me, it's obvious. We've got so much great art and so many great models for Warhammer 40K that making a Guess Who game, it's just what you do.
See, the perfect version would also have two identical images of that one slam sector squat, just like that spread in the Rogue Trader book where it's on 2 consecutive pages.
Okay, so 40K Guess Who, to me, great idea. It might be a little bit dense for people who aren't fans of 40K.
Yeah.
But like something where you're like, you pop it open and it's like, all right, is your person a Tyranid? And they're like, no. And then you're like, you put down like 2 different of the, like 2 things, or you put down, is your person a Tyranid? All of them except 2 stay up. Fuck yes.
Well, the problem is for like a non-40K player to know like what a Necron is, you would need to have as many keywords under each title as your average 8th edition data card. It's like, does your choice have objective secured?
All right, how about this? Let's refine it. How about Guess Who Necrons? And it's all Necrons. And you have to know the different color schemes of all the different dynasties. And I think there's maybe 2 people that know that. Is your person Nemistor Zandrek? Love that guy.
See, I really would have preferred a Space Marine one because it's like, are they bald? Yes. Are they screaming? Yes.
Do they look angry?
Now, if we were to do a real Necron game,
do they have a red streak in their hair? Yes.
If we were to do a real Necron game, it would have to be a Necron version of Rattle Me Bones.
Ooh, I don't know what this means, so tell me more about it.
All right, so Rattle Me Bones, which I don't know actually, Dan, you know what? I'm just going to send you this commercial for it. It's 30 seconds long. It's going to tell you everything you need to know. Is Discord fine or is Skype good?
Discord, please.
Okay. Give me 2 shakes, and you will know what Rattle Me Bones is about. I urge all of you to pause and look up the Rattle Me Bones commercial right now.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Rattle me bones! Welcome aboard, mateys. Rattle me bones, take what he will, but don't rattle me bones! Spin the wheel for the treasure to take. Careful, my friend, or he'll rattle and shake. Rattle me bones, turn the lights low, there's a frightening glow, but don't rattle me bones! Rattle me bones, you can use your skill to take what you will. You can take your fill, but don't rattle me bones! Batteries sold separately from Ideal.
Oh my God. I don't even know what that game is from that commercial.
So I don't know if you want to splice the audio in behind our reactions or cut the whole bit. I don't care. So Rattle Me Bones is a game where there's a dancing, or it shouldn't be dancing if you're doing it right. There's a plastic skeleton pirate, and you spin this little wheel to figure out.
I'm sorry. A glow-in-the-dark plastic skeleton pirate.
Very important for when you want to play Rattle Me Bones after dark, which is, in this case, somehow not a euphemism. So in Rattle Me Bones, you have the skeleton wearing, glow-in-the-dark plastic skeleton wearing all this pirate ephemera, like a pipe and a hat and an eye patch, and you'll spin.
Of course, pirates known for their love of pipes.
Yeah, no, they got their corncob pipes, they got their sweater vests, the whole deal. And you'll spin a little wheel, and you'll pick up.
Hold up.
Okay.
Popeye had a corn cob. Oh my God, corn cob pipe. And he wasn't a pirate. He was a sailor,
right?
Though. So okay, so maybe I'm a little off on that.
What else are you gonna do on a boat except for pipe? So you'll spin this little wheel, and you'll pick off a part of the glow-in-the-dark dancing plastic skeleton pirate.
Okay.
And like his hat, his pipe, his telescope, whatever. And if you shake it too much, he'll start dancing because you'll be rattling his bones, and you lose. So I'm picturing the same thing. except it could be Trazen the Infinite, and you're picking out all the pieces of various treasure he's hoarded. So you'll pick out like the little Pokeball that has Ursarkar Creed in it, or you'll pick out a chunk of Blackstone, or you'll pick out like the Lion Sword or whatever sort of bit. So I think that'd be a very easy translation.
I 100% would buy that. That's a fantastic idea.
Hire me, Games Workshop / Hasbro. Hire me.
I hope they're listening.
I really hope they are.
They're not, but I hope they are. Okay, I've got one for you.
Okay.
40K Candyland.
Tell me more.
All right, so instead of like, you know, the chocolate zone or the candy cane forest, or I don't remember anything about Candyland. I played it when I was a very young boy, but like Chaos Gods.
Oh, no, it's Realm of Chaos Candyland.
Realm of Chaos Candyland.
It writes itself.
That's like instead of like the candy cane forest, it's like the bone forest. And is that corn? Is that Slanesh? Hey, use your imagination, listener. Or like, you know, like the chocolate volcano. How about the blood volcano?
I can't wait for Plumpy to send me back to the Pleasure Dome.
That sounds awful.
I'm pretty sure I just described the first Ian Watson Inquisitor book.
Oh God, that sounds awful. Sounds like high school. Hey-o.
Woof.
All right, give me one.
Okay.
Give me a good one.
I think this actually would be almost a natural transition, which would be 40 Clue or 40K Clue, 40 Cluedo, whatever you want to fucking call it.
Okay.
Each player is an Inquisitor trying to figure out who assassinated the Imperial Noble.
Okay. I mean, basically, you could just reskin Clue for this one. This would be pretty easy.
They reskin Clue for the Office, for Christ's sake. They can reskin it for the Inquisition. Because I want to find out if Farseer Fuchsia killed the governor with the bolt gun in the hallucinatorium or whatever. Like, I think
Farseer Fuchsia.
Yeah.
Very good, my friend.
Thank you.
Inquisitor Indigo. How about that? I got one too.
All right. And Shasso Ochre, because it's a little fucking not quite yellow color. Like, you can totally fucking do this. I think 40 Clue is a natural move.
All right. I want to do one more.
Okay. I got one more too. If they're not the same one.
I want to do two more.
Okay.
40K Twister. Is it a board game? No, it's a floor game. Don't care. 40K Twister. What makes it different from regular Twister? I don't fucking know. But I want a goddamn 40K branded Twister right now. So next time we go to a convention, I can slap that thing down and be like, all right, fellas. Which one of you
from the
fucking stinky dirtbags wants to play 40K Twister?
From the guy who has gone on record saying how much you hate human contact, I'm really curious why you want to be a human pretzel with Floor Boy right now.
It's my nightmare.
Now, if it was Necromunda Twister, so you had to wear like spiked codpiece and chainsaw hat, that would add a bit of a 40K flair,
so
and
like,
make it more difficult and dangerous.
Like a lethal version of Twister.
Yeah, Twister with no survivors.
Oh man, last person alive is the winner.
4 hams enter, 1 ham leaves.
Do you remember the movie Twister with Bill Paxton?
Yeah, surprisingly not a very odd board game integrated film.
And Helen Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Helen Hunt.
Yeah, and We Got Cows. That's all I remember.
That was a good film.
Yeah, no.
I think I saw that in theaters.
You probably did. You're like 40, so that makes sense.
I'm not even 35.
I'm not even 30. My last one. My last one here is 40K Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
Yes.
He's just begging for 40K Knights with power fists and chain swords, Rock'em Sock'em Roboting it. It is just the 100%. Old Renegade box. Just use the same box. Just put this in there instead.
I'm surprised that I haven't seen some very, very driven and bright hobbyists make that already.
I actually am too. Because like people have made 40K Transformers like that old Optimorph Prime or whatever, or Orctimus Prime, or like remote controlled versions of various things. Like I'm surprised no one's made 40K Rock'em Sock'em Robots yet.
Something in my house suddenly smells delicious.
I'm jealous.
I guess my wife might be cooking. It might just be popcorn though, which
is delicious. Just
is delicious, but it probably means it's not for me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, too bad. All right. That's a sad way to end our fun segment.
Again, on brand.
All right. 40K Twister. I think it's a good idea. Let's get it going at a convention.
And we can be the next focal point for COVID-20.
Like we're going to a convention in 2020.
We are so fucking not.
All right, let's move on. So recently they announced that the Blackstone Fortress story was ending. And Blackstone Fortress, of course, is a narrative sort of RPG game under the Warhammer Quest umbrella of games. Most recently, before Blackstone Fortress, was Silver Tower.
And Shadows over Hammerhall, too.
Ooh, wonderful. So Warhammer Quest, I think, is a really unique opportunity for Games Workshop to make stories, to let people play out stories. And we wanted to have a conversation about like what could be the next 40K story from Warhammer Quest.
Yeah, and this might not be necessarily a story so much as a setting. Because like this is Blackstone Fortress is in a titular Blackstone Fortress, and for those not aware, it brings together a really disparate band of adventurers, ranging from like Xenos like Eldar and Kroot to abhumans like Ogren and Ratlings, to just like rogue traders and inquisitorial agents and all sorts of like all the wild margins of the 40K setting that don't really get to shine in an actual 40K game.
Right. So again, it's a very, very unique opportunity for Games Workshop to do some really cool narrative things with this umbrella, Warhammer Quest, with all the games in there. So I got a couple ideas of things I'd like to see.
All right.
My first idea might be a little out there.
Okay.
But I would love to see Warhammer Quest take on trench warfare.
For a narrative game, really.
Yeah, so instead of like a dungeon that your characters are supposed to like explore and find out, like your characters are in a battlefield and it's this like vast network of trenches. Like that one Gaunt's Ghost book, I think on the planet Axe Cardinal.
Right.
And like your whole deal is like you're trying to figure out like where the enemy HQ is, whatever, and like you've got like this squad of Imperial Guardsmen and you're going around and that's the story. And there's like different enemies that come over the wall at you and you got to fight them and all that stuff. I think you're dodging artillery during like the whole thing.
Well, I will say
I think it's a pretty again, it's a little different. Because it's not a dungeon. Because Warhammer Quest is basically explore a dungeon.
It's dungeon crawl.
But like trenches, there's still tunnels. Well, it's still like everything is very hyper focused on small areas.
I think actually, given the way that Blackstone Fortress uses the tiles to make a map, that actually is that's very much a natural fit for trench networks.
Yeah, so I think something like that would be cool because I remember reading that Gaunt's Ghost book and just thinking how just horrible like that situation must be, and how like just how you can create a narrative like even from the smallest things, because that whole existence of being in trenches is just like survival.
That actually kind of brings up one of the ideas I sort of like was kind of thinking about. I didn't really flesh out too much in my notes here, but I think a Sabbat Worlds sort of one would be really cool. You could actually kind of make Gaunt's Ghost the role-playing board game with that sort of thing, because
that would be fun.
Instead of, the snipe, like the Rattling Sniper sort of character, well, you get old Mad Larkin. You could be, Dordan. You could be Gaunt. You could be, Elijah Koo, you could be like any number of these various characters, because there's so many of like it's a character heavy game. And for future expansion packs, if you want to include expansion packs in this sort of thing, if it was going out there are so many theaters of that Sabbat Worlds war you could include, and so many other characters who come into it. And while the enemies you face might be a bit more, I don't want to say uniform, but they're largely just chaos dudes, a lot like they are in Blackstone Fortress. I think it does have a lot of storytelling opportunities. I think it might be a little too limited for some people, but if you're into like the Gaunt's Ghost books, I think it'd be really fucking cool.
I would 100% want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Like, no shit. I love Gaunt's Ghost. I love Tanith First and Only. that shit would be right up my alley.
And the thing is, how many Gaunt's Ghost stories are not about big blocks of troops, but about squad level, even down to the individual level actions, like, like Guns of Navarone shit, behind enemy lines, small team commando work. I think that could be a very cool setting for this sort of narrative role-playing game sort of thing.
I mean, you could extrapolate that to have Warhammer Quest based on Catachan. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is you have a squad of you and your fellow players are a squad of Catachan jungle fighters, and the jungle is crazy and terrible, and you have to not die.
Absolutely. So what else?
I mean, again, you're not working with squats. Oh, I mean, you might have rattlings.
Yeah, you might have rattlings. You'll have
ogrins, and then you could have all sorts of crazy enemies in the jungle. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man. That seems like a good idea. Yeah. I hope they're listening, bud. I really fucking hope they're listening to this episode.
And only this one. Please don't listen to episode 69 if you work for Games Workshop. You will never give us preview copies.
Like we're ever going to get fucking preview copies.
All right, what else you got?
Okay. I'm a huge fan of another Dan Abnett property, Eisenhorn. Mm-hmm. And I would love to have a Warhammer Quest like inquisitorial retinue.
Yeah.
So maybe not the Inquisitor, but like all of the Inquisitor's lackeys are the characters you can use.
Yeah.
As you're trying to figure out this investigation, like in a hive or on a hive planet somewhere.
Like that's the I think the old Dark Heresy RPG was not, you weren't the Inquisitor, you were their fucking yahoos who follow them around.
Right. And Dark Heresy RPG whipped ass.
Yeah.
Like that was one of the coolest settings. I'd never played it, but I read through the source books, and just which is my general way I do with RPG games. I buy a lot of RPG source books, but I never actually play them. I think it would be so cool just because like there's so many cool like inquisitorial weirdos out there.
Yeah.
And having them, have like, more fleshed out models would be like number one. Because the thing about Blackstone Fortress that really, really impressed me the most was just the incredibly good models all over it. Mm-hmm. I was talking in our Discord today, again, not the 40K Badcast Discord, because that doesn't exist, but a Discord that Campbell and I are both on, about how Obsidious Malix, who is the Chaos Lord from Blackstone Fortress, is probably my favorite Chaos model.
Yeah.
Because he looks fantastic. And he's not like over the top and crazy. He doesn't have like an enormous footprint or anything. He's just such a well done, simple model with a bitchin' fucking top knot. And I would love to see that, but taking on the aspect of an inquisitorial retinue where you've got like, maybe some sort of badass enforcer or RB Days guy, some Death Cult assassins. I know that there was a Death Cult assassin woman in the Kill Team expansion, the Rogue Trader. Rogue Trader. Looked fantastic. I'd love to see them explore just some of the inquisitorial weirdos, because that's one of my favorite segments of 40K lore. The interrogators and etc.
Well, the inquisitorial weirdos are like where you get the most 40K per square inch on models.
Yeah.
Because like some dude with a las gun, a big dude in armor with a big gun, like that's cool. But when you have, a flying robotic or flying cyborg baby dragging a gun who's behind a guy with a Pope hat and a mace that's also a holy smoke sensor, like that's the real 40K shit.
Doesn't make any sense, and it sucks. The whole thing sucks if it was real, but it's so good.
Fucking rules when it's fiction. So actually, similar to that, I recently-ish read The Carrion Throne, which is set on Terra, and I think Terra would be a fantastic place to have that sort of setting.
Really?
Well, Terra is this. The whole planet is just like a city. Is just hives and hives and palaces and hives. Like, again, the entirety of Asia is the Imperial Palace. You could do a whole game set in just the underbelly of that Imperial Palace. And I know I joke about like Ian Watson books a lot, but the first Inquisitor book, as fucking weird and horny as it is, has this whole section late in the book where the main characters are in this basic sea of humanity trying to get to the Emperor's palace. And they don't know how long they're underground or how long they're in basically endless queues to get, to the next step of their journey. And it is this meandering, like time loses all meaning sort of setting, which is just as crazy as, the Blackstone Fortress is portrayed now. And I think having Terra as a setting means you could draw on all the weirdest parts of humanity that, like you were bringing up, and that the existing Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress kind of touches on, and make a really cool story.
So you're telling me that a setting on Earth, aka Terra, where time has no meaning and things get really weird, interests you?
Yeah, I know. When it's small and plastic, I like it a lot better than when it's man-sized and made of flesh.
When it's not real fucking life.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I would love to explore the bowels of Terra some more because, the only Terra I'm really all that familiar with is Terra High. Which
and the fast times they're in.
Right, yeah. I haven't read too much about Holy Terra because a lot of it is like Custodes stories. And Custodes are a big blind spot for me in 40K because I just don't care. I just don't find them interesting.
I would say read the Carrion Throne. I can send you my copy at some point. There's an Inquisitor with a fucking wise-talking servo skull sidekick. It's a pretty good time.
Love that. And sorry, Henry Cavill. And I know that you're a big listener of the show here. And I know you love your Custodes. Please don't stop listening to the show. I will die for you. So, God, what if he listens?
I would be shocked. I would be shocked and amazed. And
I would ascend.
A friend of mine has an enormous.
my mortal body would burn up, and I would move to the next plane of existence.
A friend of mine has an enormous crush on him, and I think she would actually die.
Who doesn't have an enormous crush on him? Have you seen the man?
She had such an enormous crush on him. She talked about him during her wedding vows. That's what I'm talking about.
You were there, so did I. All right. That's fun. Okay, I got one. I would love to see an Eldar focused Blackstone or Warhammer Quest game.
Yep.
Like a webway. Like a Black Library webway, kind of Harlequins and Aspect Warriors fighting off the degradations of chaos. I think that would be a extremely cool addition to Warhammer Quest because the webway, we've never really seen it. It can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And it can open up into weird places and terrible things. And Eldar models, recent Eldar models, fucking kick ass.
Second edition Eldar models still hold up pretty damn well.
Yeah. Like they only recently replaced Howling Banshees.
Yeah.
And the Howling Banshees they replaced, they weren't bad. They weren't great by, 21st century metrics, but they weren't bad. So yeah, I would love to see like Aspect Warriors or Harlequins or whatever defending the webway.
I would actually pivot a little bit from there because I think one set in Kimura, the Dark Eldar Dark City.
Ooh.
I think like the first thought might be like, oh, it's a gladiator game. Like, yeah, that's fine, that's cool, but like a Dark Eldar murder maze. Like, you could do the dungeon crawl again, but being like, have the final boss be the Dark Eldar Archon who captured all of you. Because in this, you can have people from, or not even people, just things from every walk of life. You can have your Urguls, you can have your Hrud, you can have your Space Marine missing his equipment, you can have your Guardsmen, you can have your Inquisitors, you can have anybody. That would be
so fucking cool. A Space Marine with no armor.
Yeah, just like a really big, just like buff-ass
really
dude.
big hog hanging out.
But yeah, well, like
just a massive fucking hog.
But like, how cool would it be to have like a Space Marine who is like not, in with all their equipment, not with his bolter, not with his chainsaw, just like holding a bike chain, for Christ's sake, whatever. I think
a glass bottle.
I think that'd be a really cool thing to have, just be like a Dark Eldar, Archon's captives who he's set loose in this murder maze for their enjoyment. You could have anything because they could have like. You could have Dark Eldar witches and Kabbalites as enemies. You could have monsters they'd captured to unleash upon the denizens of the murder maze. You could have anyone you fucking want. I think one set in a Camoran dungeon would be incredible.
I agree. Man, I hope they're listening.
And the thing is, like, this.
I just hope they're listening. And hey, you know what? If they want to pay us for these ideas, that's cool too.
Yeah, hell, I'll even take a copy of the game when it's done.
Maybe my name would be in the book. I'd feel pretty good about
A
that.
story credit by would be kind of nice.
But it'd have to be your boy Deezy.
I thought it was pronounced Chuboy.
Or either or, man. This is choose your own adventure.
Yeah, they can misspell my name however they want.
Yeah. Dimple McCutie Pie. All right, bud. Let's move on to the marquee segment. Fact or fan fiction. Where we make the big bucks off of the hard work of somebody else. Sorry, gang, it's the American way.
It is, and we are, as you may be aware, extremely American.
Every episode, we have to mention it. All right.
Hack-led system. Planet Tactus. Objective, take and hold the lost Imperial land. Deployment, 100,000 guardsmen. Vox Diary, Jack Cantus. I gripped my lasgun, held my breath, and took the shot. It penetrated the Fire Warrior helmet, going through to the head, destroying the body. Around me, I could hear, wrong here, the shots of a riptide, the great explosions of Lehman Russ cannons, and the sound of Laz shots being fired. I ducked under the steel plates of the bunker as ion and rail shots flew past me. Charge! Shouted Commissar Logan. He aimed his plasma pistol at the head of a chassif and took the shot. It melted the skin, leaving it as blue smoke. Jack, fire the heavy bolter near you at that broadside. It's causing damage to our tanks, shouted Logan. At me. Yes, sir, I replied. I aimed down the sights, loaded and readied it. Then the terrific noise of the bolts being fired, knocking down the puny XV-86 broadside filled my ears. Xeno scum! Yes?
Wouldn't you load it and ready it before you aimed? I don't know anything about guns, mind you, but I feel like that would be the correct order of operations there. Load, ready, then aim, then fire.
It is usually, I've heard it in movies as ready, aim, fire, not aim, load, ready, fire.
Keep aiming. You have to keep aiming. You have to keep aiming.
Or else you'll lose them. Die, Xeno scum! Shouted Logan as he charged with his squad of stormtroopers, crushing the skull of a Pathfinder. Then I heard a great cheer. It was a Baneblade! Pilot, concentrate all firepower on the Riptide battlesuit, commanded Logan. Boom! The volcano cannon fired at the Riptide, knocking it down, destroying one leg, an arm in both thrusters. The heavy bolter started to fire. A great roar, killing most of the fire warriors. Most others retreating. The las can charged up, and with a loud crack and a blinding flash, the XU-38 Crisis Commander was killed. The tower retreated, leaving the Imperials victorious. We have a new area. Send in the Adeptus Mechanicus to build a field command and a Mars pattern command. We'll need it, said Logan. Down the Voxcaster. ...
Yeah, that was a Shadow Sword, Campbell, not a Baneblade. Because you can't pull one over on me, all right? If it's got a volcano cannon, it's a Shadow Sword.
You may think that is a bit of trivia that may matter deciding if this is published fiction by Black Library or fan fiction, but it is important to know that every single word, the first letter is capitalized in this entire piece, and it uses commas for spaces usually. So keep that in mind as you're trying to figure if this story about, I just realized it's leaving the Imperials victorious. It's very important. Figure that out if this means it's fact or fan fiction.
I'm going to say, after intense deliberation, that this is in fact fan fiction.
Yes. I hate to say it, but Xeno's Rebellion, a Warhammer 40,000 story by Caldor_Drago, is in fact fan fiction.
Caldor Drago, huh?
Yeah.
Celebrities writing.
He was lost in the warp, and while he was lost, he decided to, I guess, document some of the things he saw.
Remember that one time Caldor Drago killed a Warlord Titan in a game we were both playing in?
Yeah, and it exploded and killed him. That fucking ruled. Oh, that was the best bit of that entire.
That's the thing about apocalypse games is every now and then you get a cool moment out of an entire day's worth of tedium.
Yeah, the 6 hours before, yeah, I can take your leaving, but that bit was cool.
Oh man, the best part was the guy who had the Warlord was pretty fucking salty about it.
Even better.
Okay. Let's start getting out of here. Let's get to some plugs, some plugs, if you will. Let's start with the money first, man. Patreon.com/40kbadcast. We got all sorts of fun stuff going on. It's the beginning of May. There we go. Beginning of May right now. So that means we've got a new subscriber only episode coming out to the Patreons. And I don't even know what we're talking about this month, Campbell.
We'll figure out soon enough. We usually pull it out of our asses at the last possible minute, and nobody's complained yet.
if it ain't broke,
don't fix it.
There we go. But yeah, we've got tons of stuff there. We've got 3 different tiers of support that you can take part in. And we would suggest that if you want more of the 40K Badcast, that is the best place to get it.
Now, if you want to have even more 40K Badcast in such a way that you can blanket yourself in a very flammable material with the 40K Badcast written on it, you can buy t-shirts from us. Go to shop.spreadshirt.com/40K Badcast, and we have a ton of designs there, including a really recent one commemorating our marquee episode.
Oh, shit. Do I still have that? Oh, God.
Episode 69.
And that is the shirt just for you, the horn dogs out there.
I am not lying when I say this. I'm buying a version of this shirt right now.
I am extremely excited. I still need to pick my own up. I'm not sure how I'll look in yellow, but it comes in whatever color you fucking want.
I am not buying it in yellow.
What are you buying it in?
I am going to buy it, I think, in purple.
Ooh, very good.
Because the part of the logo, the letters are yellow, and purple and yellow go well together.
They do. They are complementary colors. Now, we have tons of shirts there. We have our Patreon and so on. But we also write for this little website called Goonhammer, where I recently wrote way too many words about Fallout 76 for their video game review like 2 weeks ago. And I also contribute on the regular to their current twice-a-month hobby roundups, so you can see a bunch of my pictures there and some further notes and some of my painting if you want to check that out. And Dan, you put a lot more work than I do into Goonhammer because you write a segment called Necro Monday.
I do. It's a weekly column that I do with our friend Jules, and boy, oh boy, does that take a lot of work.
That's weekly. Who has the time?
I apparently do. And it was a great idea, and I love doing it. No, that's not true. I actually do love doing it. We've been getting a lot of great feedback lately about it, where people are saying that the column is what is igniting and maintaining their flame of interest for Necromunda. And I really, really, really love to hear that sort of stuff. And like, honestly, Necromunda is a very complicated system in games. So if you're curious about it at all, come on over to Goonhammer, take a look at Necromunda, and hopefully we'll have the answers for you there.
Now, the last thing I want to say is there's also, you may or may not be aware of a company called Humble Bundle, and they put out bundles of games, software, stuff like that usually. But right now, they have not only a Humble Bundle of Warhammer books, which is it's 24, 26 first novels in a bunch of Warhammer series, some of which are extremely good for real cheap, and it all goes to charity. But right now there's also a second bundle full of the old Fantasy Flight Warhammer role-playing game books for Deathwatch, which are now held by Cubicle 7. But it benefits Doctors Without Borders, and even if you don't actually play or want to play, it's a wonderful repository of lore, of art, of story ideas, all the building blocks you need for any of your sort of Warhammer-related campaigns or role-playing games or missions, whatever. And again, it benefits a charity. It's a super cool thing, so go to Humble Bundle, look for that sort of thing, and check it out.
I have successfully purchased my Horn Dogs shirt.
Hell yeah.
So we are also on social media. Twitter is probably the best way to interact with us there. And we don't have a show Twitter because fuck that, but we do have personal Twitters. Mine is at DB_sleazy and yours is at brother SRM. And we tweet about a lot of stuff. Recently, we had some engagement with a listener about his head choice for a model he was painting. And I think I gave him real advice, and you gave him fun advice, which is kind of the opposite of what normally happens.
Yeah, it's kind of like a good cop, bad cop, but they're both bad cops, and both don't like police officers very much.
No. So that's on social media, but the best way to contact us, and I would suggest that you would, if you have any questions you want to ask us, is our email address, contact@40kbadcast.com. We need questions for the We Make Decall segment, and we love to see pictures of minis. We love to see pictures of pets, and we love to see pictures of you, listeners, because we love you, and we just love engaging with you, being engaged to you, and then eventually getting married. Though right now, who's going to come to our wedding?
I mean, we can definitely do a Zoom wedding, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. That sounds like a great idea.
That's wonderful. You may now kiss your webcam.
And I just remembered we talked about how we were going to do a hobby hangout on Zoom, and I have not done no work to get that set. So that makes me feel bad.
I've sent
pay attention to that, listeners. That might happen.
Yeah, that should happen.
I said it would. It will.
It'll happen for our patrons. I've sent 2 texts to try to get it set up.
Yes, we're both working very hard at this. Anyways, I think that's it for plugs. So, Campbell, do you have a quote that you'd like to send us out on?
I do. Be vigilant and strong. The Emperor knows what evil lurks in the vacillation of a weak fool.
The Vaseline.
Got him.
All right, gang.
Extremely smooth weak fool.
We are the 40K Badcast. We're bad at 40K. You can too. And we'll see ya in the next cartoon.